So you reach the sign and you stare at it for 10 minutes. After you come to the conclusion that you'll never be able to pronounce this coaster or spell it out after your eyes glance away, you walk into the line. Well, really into the station, because if there's a line, what are you doing? You sit in the tight yet very bulky train and realize this was definitely a mistake. Bring it on, Kirsten Dunst style. You proceed out the station and you make a left turn into a shed. What's in the shed? Ain't shit. You take a right turn and rise up the first chain lift. You take a graceful right turn, and that's the last thing that will be graceful for the remainder of the ride. Left turn shoved to the side. Right helix pushed and called a dweeb. Small hill, no airtime. Ouch, the worst type of pain. Second chain lift. You coast into a right helix, puts you into a rigid bunny hop, and your back gets slapped. No S&M required. And what was that section of the ride all about? You tell me. Third chain lift. You have this extended left turn into a tunnel, and the best part of the ride, a drop into an underground tunnel. You're speeding through those rigid, unnecessary banks, and then you rise and the block brake grabs you and holds you against a locker like an underpaid teacher would do to a misbehaving student once they finally cracked. Or in other words, what new teachers do to students after the first month of school. This ride is awkward from beginning to end, including the name. It's a bearable, unimpressive, or a weak fun, but it's a classic. It debuted in 1967 and it's themed after one of the United States' first gold rushes in Dahlonega, Georgia. Why did I try to pronounce this? Dahlonega? Oh, that can get bad really easily. And there are many roller coasters at parks around the world that are very similar. But where do these roller coasters come from? What makes something a mine train coaster? Mining carts are known to go back all the way to the 1500s in caves in Europe. Railways were designed with these steel trolley carts to carry ore and materials. The theme of mine train coasters really come from the mine trains of Western United States mines. Mining rushes in the United States started in the late 1700s in the Carolinas, followed by the explorations in Georgia, California, Colorado, etc. Coal, iron, gold, and copper were a few of the very popular and valued resources that were mined. But imagine if one of those carts just fleed out of control. Fleed? Wouldn't it be flew? Flew out airlines. But actually that's not funny because they had a lot of mining accidents, a lot of fatalities. To look into the first mine train coaster, we need to make our way to Six Flags. Ugh. Six Flags? Six Flags! As a pioneer? What is this? But don't worry, this is when Six Flags actually had a theme. Like, they had a whole theme section called the Confederacy, and they had actual slaves on display. So innovative. Runaway Mine Train at Six Flags Over Texas was manufactured by Aerodynamics and debuted in 1966. At the time, Aerodynamics had recently revolutionized the roller coaster industry by producing steel tubular tracks. The coaster featured a rock-crushing station, a saloon, and a tunnel diving under a lake. And we thought Anaconda was special for that. Ugh, Anaconda, what are you even good for? My Anaconda don't. A big-ass mine train, one of the most popular, is Disneyland's Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, which debuted in 1979. This coaster used the mine theme and added theatrics, being a mine crumbling during an earthquake. And that's not to get confused with the Universal ride Earthquake, where the semi cracked a pillar. Expedition Everest. Do I even need to explain? A dope mountain structure, a reverse track section, a Yeti that is literally me when I wake up in the morning. And yes, I'm including this as a mine train. You don't like it? You can sit and think about it and agree later. A newer mine train is Seven Dwarfs Mine Train at Magic Kingdom. It's themed after Snow White and those 7 men calling out for a hoe. It features tilting vehicles allowing riders to experience a swaying sensation similar to actual mine carts. Many of these coasters have very similar elements which help classify them as mine trains. Let's discuss these elements as we take a ride on the mine train that I grew up with. That's right,
Donkey Kong Country. I actually prefer the roller coaster on Donkey Kong Country 2 because, you know, it's a fucking roller coaster. And that Donkey Kong ride concept at Universal looks fantastic. It's sickening. And they better have some banana split sundaes so I can sit there eating ice cream listening to one of those fantastic scores from the games. Universal, I hope you're taking notes. You better not give me nothing lazy. Even you, Universal Hollywood. But really, let's discuss how these elements influence Adventure Express at Kings Island. Adventure Express features a steel tubular track and wooden supports.
Arrow built these steel tracks, and the trains had chassis and wheel alignment that actually doesn't feel like you're driving through gravel. The support simulated a classic wooden coaster structure on Adventure Express, like many others, such as the original mine train at Six Flags Over Texas and the one at Cedar Point. Yep, Gemini.
Did somebody say the blueprint for RMC? Mine trains love to venture between trees and woodsy areas. Adventure Express is no exception.
It begins by gracefully zigzagging a woodsy area. Am I old by saying I like this part most when you are right up under King Cobra? Oof, showing my age a bit. And this area and the remaining of the ride shows how it will play with the hilly terrain it sits on.
What mine train doesn't have a tunnel? If you're a mine train without a tunnel, you just can't sit with us. You're really not even a mine train at this point. I mean, just stop appropriating mine trains. We wanted 7 Dwarfs mine train and you're giving us 7 Rings Ariana Grande. Let me stop.
And after that zigzag, Adventure Express sends you down this sudden drop where you get a little floater if you're sitting in the back. Got you holding onto the handlebar like, whoa there! I was promised a family attraction. This dip leads you to a tunnel and has a sign saying, track closed. Yippee! Danger! Some of these tunnels smell like farts. Don't know what that was about, but hey, it's a crumbling ruins. There's bound to be some sulfide gases just leaking about. It was probably the skyline, but we'll go with that. These tunnels feature skeletons. Maybe just one skeleton. But they do offer something really impressive. Darkness. You exit with a right turn into a straightaway into another tunnel where you break into the first chain lift.
Adventure Express, like many other mine trains, have more than one chain lift. It has 2.
The first rises you up to a staggering height of 63 feet. I don't even feel like that's true, to be honest. There are these wooden beams with these masks on them. One of the beams is crooked, nuanced theming, or a design flaw. You'll never know. The chain lift is not the most graceful. There's a slight Granny's rocking chair effect going on. It gives you a great view of Banshee. I mean, I liked it better when it was Son of Beast, but looking at Banshee's cute or whatever. The second chain lift comes at the end.
The main element for mine trains are helices. Most have many. And they also have random straight pieces of track and awkward dips, but helices.
You slow motion drop into the first helix of the ride. You know what? Just sit in the back of the ride. Unless you're in the very front row, don't even bother. You're listening to all the little fun dips if you're not in the back. So after this first helix, you go into a straightaway, into a left turn, into a hop, and then you just slip out of the train. The end. So yeah, after you're bouncing about in that dip area, you take this left turn into yet another helix.
See, I wasn't gonna mention this because I have Expedition Everest in the same video, and so like in comparison, let's just be honest, when it comes to Adventure Express's rock work, it's kind of like the rocks that Charlie Brown got for Trick or Treats.
But there are a few moments of rock work, including this moment flying past decaying pillars. Not rocks, I know, but cut us some slack, okay? Tear us some trousers, please. Strip us some suit pants. But there's also those split seconds of entering a tunnel where there's rocks around the entrance. Look at that, impressive. You go through the tunnel and yes, it smells like Doritos. You exit and make this left turn near the first lift hill. Then there's this abrupt straight section. Yeah, that's right. Remind us that we're riding an arrow. You climb over the tunnel you just came out of and where you proceed into another tunnel into the second chain lift.
Mine trains always have animatronics somewhere in the experience. Let me rephrase that. Mine trains with a budget always have animatronics somewhere in the experience. Kings Island just slipped above that budget.
As you rise up the lift, there are these rock-looking statues that their arms move up and down. Look, rock work, see? They say, now you will pay. Or I could be thinking about the season pass office in the ticket booth, I can't remember. This master guy with glowing eyes at the top looking like he's about to pour some old African remedy to cure your cold from this wooden gourd that he's holding. You make this little pre-drop and you make this right turn heading outside, ready for the most exciting moment of the ride. The final brake run. Bastards! And the train ahead of you ain't never ready, so you gotta sit there and think about that prank they just pulled on you. These bitches really just trolled me!
Adventure Express is very much a mainstream mine train coaster. However, it doesn't have all of the elements that other mine trains have. For example, many mine trains have like themed front cars. A lot of the times they look like locomotives. In our case, that wasn't needed. Nor was it budgeted for. Adventure Express is sort of Indiana Jones-ish. And so like, it kind of have caves, more like ruins. Some sort of tomb thing at the end. So that's not the most traditional theme for a mine train. It doesn't give off strong mining in the mountains and the caves vibes. There is no mountain that it's going in and out of like a worm in an apple. And there are absolutely no Wild West themes. We are in Oktoberfest. There are bratwurst outside. Adventure Express is kick-ass. I am biased though. It's also relatively newer than the others. It came out in the 90s and a lot of the other ones came out in like 60s, 70s. So it's a little less awkward and a bit more smooth. What are your thoughts on Adventure Express? What about your thoughts on the D mine train? What are your thoughts on mine trains in general? Comment down below. Let me know what your favorite mine train is. I'm Rob, and this is Rob's Rides, keeping it 100 with all things amusement. And if you thought that this was Chris's Coasters, hit subscribe and I'll come back with a new video at some point.